What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick, and I'm joined with the gentleman, as always, Mike. What's going on, man? He's doing great, and we got Keelan here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm over here, talking as well. But I was as silent as Mike because my mute was on, and I was trying to talk crazy about him, like, "Oh, hey, he's there. He just turned into the invisible sound guy." But
Well,
probably would have
I
been
was
more
I
funny
was
in his
trying to say
face.
I'm hangry.
Oh,
Hey, there he goes.
there he is.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, it's okay. We all have audio issues. If you listen to our last episode, apparently my audio was being picked up by my internal microphone and not my real microphone. So I swear to God, if it happens again this episode, I'm quitting.
Swear to God, man,
How
happens all the
dare
time.
you threaten us with quitting?
I know. I'm kidding, but still, it does make me want to quit whenever I hear myself like echoing, like I'm in. I don't know. It's annoying. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Hope you're having a wonderful night whenever you're checking us out. Tonight we're going to be reviewing a movie that's streaming on Netflix called The Woman of the Hour. And it is starring Anna Kendrick, Daniel Zavato, and Tony Hale, just to name a few. It's also the directorial debut for Anna Kendrick, and it's written by Ian McDonald. And the synopsis here is Cheryl Bradshaw, a single woman looking for a suitor on a hit 1970s TV show, chooses charming bachelor Rodney Alcala, unaware that behind the man's gentle facade, he hides a deadly secret. Well, this is actually based on a true story. I did not know that until the end of this movie. And it's interesting because there was a man named Rodney Alcala who did indeed go on to a dating show called The Dating Show back in 1978, I believe. And he was also a serial killer and just recently passed away in 2021 and has been connected to a string of heinous crimes as well as many unconfirmed crimes as well. So this is Anna Kendrick's first directorial debut, as I mentioned before, that's set in the 70s. It's kind of like the end of the Summer of Love. But before we get into any of the details, maybe we should go through first impressions. Gentlemen, who wants to start? What were your first impressions of this movie?
Honestly, I thought it was about Richard Ramirez.
Whoa, that's crazy.
That's what.
Hey,
No,
yeah.
I mean that was my initial thought when I first started to listen to the plot. I thought, oh, so it's about Richard Ramirez. No, apparently not. There's been more.
Oh, yeah, a lot
There's
more.
so many more.
Yeah. A fun fact, too, before we start the first impressions, as I suspected after hearing that this was an actual serial killer, looked into his history, and wouldn't you know it, he had a stint in the U.S. Army.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. And apparently an IQ of 135. So I'm sure that they weren't interested in him for any sort of MK Ultra type thing.
Nope, just your normal grunt.
Just your normal guy that decides to become a serial killer after leaving the army, like so many of the other ones.
Man,
Just makes you wonder.
makes me want to do an episode of a different show and find out how many, if I could find a number on that.
You could find a number on that, my friend. Yes, you can, and it would be
Crazy.
shocking. I think you probably should do a if numbers could talk about that. That would be a fascinating episode.
Right? I mean, it's
Yes, sir.
really my mind is just spinning right now, thinking like, man, that's gonna be some crazy stuff to read about.
Oh yeah, big
And I know
time.
me. I'm gonna ask questions.
There you go. Well, we all look forward to that. So let us know when you do that, and we'll make sure to promote it on this channel. But yeah, let's get back to first impressions. Mike, you started. You said that you first thought this was about the Night Stalker, but then obviously you realized that it wasn't. So any other first impressions about the movie?
Yeah, sure. I didn't realize it wasn't about the Night Stalker until at the very end, to be honest, because I
Okay.
thought it was because I couldn't recall if they ever actually used his name.
Mhm.
Throughout the
Don't think
movie.
it.
until like towards the end.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure. So I had no idea. But I thought Anna Kendrick did a pretty good job. She told a really good story. I enjoyed it. I'm not really into crime stories like these, especially ones that are based in reality, because I just don't need any more additional evil to think about. If you know what I mean.
Sure.
Got plenty of that in reality to deal with, just living day to day. But I actually enjoyed this.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad. Keelan, what did you think? What were your first impressions?
First impressions, I too enjoyed this. I think it was a great directorial debut for Anna Kendrick. I didn't know she directed it until the end, and I must say I was impressed. Mostly because I didn't know that was something that was in her wheelhouse. And a lot of times you get actors, etc., who dive into directing, and everybody wants to be a director at a certain point. And it doesn't always pan out. We could
No.
go down, we could make a whole nother list of those, right? Um, but as far as the film itself, again, like Mike said, I think it told a great story. And it told a story that, although was already real and known to some people, it's almost erudated to where it almost sounds fresh, like Mike couldn't distinguish it from a different story. I'm sure people who don't take the time, excuse me, to use that good old Google University or YouTube University, um, I'm pretty sure the people who choose not to go into it that deep are just going to get a really enjoyable movie that takes you on a roller coaster, but not in a way in which you're like overly excited. So it reminded me really quick of I'm not sure if the OJ movie started this whole thing with not telling things in specific or perfectly chronological order, but it kind of gave
Mhm.
me that vibe. But I think it took that whole thing and it spun it a little bit by giving you the beginning, the middle, and the end, and then telling the story.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah, so overall, I did enjoy it. I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't like that I would like to mention at the top, and nothing really to mention at the top. So I enjoyed it. It could have actually been a little longer, but I'm glad it wasn't because we have plenty to say about things that break their own timeline.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, gentlemen. I actually really enjoyed this one. I kind of like to think in my own head canon that this is in the same universe as Late Night with the Devil,
Mhm.
since they're both centered around similar motifs and themes. I thought Anna Kendrick did a really good job directing. I noticed the cinematography. I noticed some of the playing with the camera and setting up the story with the camera. And it seems like she's taking some inspiration from a lot of great directors out there. So it was, yeah, it was cinematically well shot. The camera told a good story. I think that the story itself is quite contained, almost even to the point of feeling mundane, which I thought was an interesting choice because, like Keelan, you said, it's not a thriller that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat with lots of action. It's almost like a, yeah, it's almost like a subdued thriller that doesn't really hit a boiling point, but still has tension, which I thought was pretty good. Um, I enjoyed it. It's tight. It's an hour and 30 minutes long. That's perfect. The acting was decent. I don't know if I like the actor who plays Rodrigo, or not Rodrigo. What's his name?
Uh,
Rodney.
Rodney.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that actor, but maybe that's the point. He's kind of unsettling to me, so I think that that's probably a good thing. I
Right.
also couldn't tell if he was wearing a really bad wig, and that was sort of kind of bothering me a little bit. But that could have just been how they styled his hair. So, you know,
He kind of gave me that Gerard Depardieu vibe that he was trying to get, from No Country for Old Men.
oh, Javier
I felt
Bardem.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
is that what his name? Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
same to me.
But they're not. Just,
But yeah, that's who he. I get the names mixed up. I'm sorry,
No,
but
no, I
that was the
actually agree
vibe I
with you.
felt like he was going for,
Yes, I
and
agree. Yeah.
that cold, dead kind of look in the eyes.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Yeah, and
and Get Out of My Head, I thought this was a Late Night with the Devil too. I swear, I
Yeah.
kept thinking about that.
So
Same
what's funny
universe.
about that is when I first saw the trailer, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
Right.
oh, okay, they were inspired.
Right, right. Well, yeah. So I think that you mentioned the Coen brothers, No Country for Old Men, and you have Anton Chigurh, who's played by Javier Bardem in that movie. I think that this character sort of plays on some of those same motifs, that sort of like very still menacing persona that is almost on the verge of like complete meltdown, but never really fully gets there. I think that that's really well done, and I also think Anna Kendrick took some directorial tips from the Coen brothers. So I think there's a little bit of a homage there. I also saw a little bit of an homage to maybe like Paul Thomas Anderson. Some, who did Citizen Kane? Orson Welles. There's a little bit of that there too. So it's an interesting film. And interestingly shot. And I, again, didn't know that it was a true story until at the end, which I think chronologically this works pretty well too, because you don't realize, I guess the grand twist at the end is that the one of the flashbacks, quote unquote flashbacks that you see is not really a flashback. It's more of like a flash forward to the conclusion of the story.
Yeah. Overall, great shot. Great movie, great shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, let's
Well,
talk
we can
about
get
it
into some
itself.
details. Yeah, let's get into some details about this. I don't really know how we want to bounce around because this movie tends to bounce around quite a bit. But maybe we can just get the broad strokes of all of this stuff and any points that we might want to talk about.
Right.
Start at
Well,
the beginning.
right.
Yes,
I'm like,
indeed.
we essentially, well, not essentially, but we start in 1977 in Wyoming. We end up going to Hollywood, 1978, and that's where most of the story gets told. And then we get a bit of round out in 1979, San Gabriel. But in Wyoming, we open with a young lady who is just in the middle of nowhere taking pictures with a photographer, telling him about her life and how, she was pregnant and she had this guy that she thought was the greatest guy in the world, and thought that she was going to be living the best life. And he found out she was pregnant in Dodge Town. It's 1977. He's not looked that bad for that. She is. How that
Mhm.
works, it's 2024. I wouldn't understand 1977, but that's the situation back then. And so she hadn't told her family nothing. And the killer, whose name we don't know at the time, but we do see, he found an opening, which was nobody's looking for you.
Yep.
Nobody's checking for you right now.
Which
Right.
seems to be his MO with all of the victims.
Yeah.
Find the nobody.
Nobody's looking for him. And, he does his whole I'm a photographer thing, which I'm sure by now the ladies are very wary of. So,
Oh, yeah. I know a
And
few
to be
ladies who
fair,
went.
okay.
No, I was just gonna say I know a few ladies who have gone to photography appointments, and they'll call somebody they know, like, hey, I need you to go with me to this.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big lure that has been used in the past, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because
It sucks
think
for the real photographers.
yeah.
Yeah,
It does.
that's when you just work with an agency that hires, people.
Even still, that's how
That's true.
how you get the other. What is it? ST happens, if you understand what I'm saying without me saying the words.
Yeah. I mean, well, this guy worked for the LA Times.
I mean, apparently. I don't know if that was actually true, but
That's true. That could have been embellished.
He might have
Could
been
have been
freelance. Yeah.
But
What I was going to say is part of that MO or modus operandi is that they look for girls or individuals who aren't being sought after by any family, runaways and
Yeah.
street people, because they're the easiest targets and nobody's going to come check for them. PD is not going to go in depth and try to investigate what happened to a homeless guy or girl
No.
as readily as they would somebody who's a pillar of the community. It's one of those status kind of things.
And you still have the residual of like the hippie generation and the summer of love, and where, hitchhiking across the country on your own was sort of still a thing.
Right.
It was coming to an end, obviously, but it's there's no coincidence in my mind that the LSD experiments ran rampant in the 60s, and then in the 70s you had a slew of serial killers. So you might be able to connect dots there. Who knows? But the main serial killers that caused so much havoc were directly out of the 1960s, and particularly the hippie generation.
Mhm. That's scary.
Which they only allude to the possibility that he actually might have some sort of tactical training at the end, where the girl mentions that he might be a Boy Scout.
Right.
But the more accurate response would be, were you in the military? Because he was.
Yeah. Well, I think that right there tells us that Anna Kendrick had to definitely take some liberties with the story. One of which I noticed is the lady's name is Cheryl with a C in real life, but they use Cheryl with an S in the movie, or at least in the script.
Yeah,
Probably
it's
to protect
possible.
the names and the victims.
Not when you tell
Or
us the real name at the
or
end.
not have to acquire the rights.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. There's always a twist to it.
Yeah, because they particularly mention at the end that Cheryl is living a quiet life, so she probably doesn't want to be contacted by big movie studios and stuff like that.
Yeah. She doesn't want any part of it. She wanted out of the industry. She wanted out of Hollywood shit in general. And she definitely don't want to be found by this killer.
Well, and it wasn't really necessarily obvious that she actually had any interaction, I don't
With him.
think, with
Yeah,
him
outside of what's on
of the show.
stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Um,
right. You're absolutely right. Well, speaking of Cheryl, in Hollywood, 1978, we meet Cheryl. She's on an audition. During this audition, she's basically asked by the dude, will she get nude? You know, is she okay with nudity? She says no, and they politely see her to the door. Um, she gets home, runs into her neighbor, who also seems to be or not an up and coming, but aspiring actor.
I
Uh,
think he's supposed to be her acting coach.
yeah, I bet.
Eh.
Because I'm sorry, like if he's the guy I think he is, that I remember him as, he's a decent actor, but he was a terrible actor in this on purpose. Seemingly.
Yeah. Well, every man in this movie has like this level of menace that I guess we're supposed to
Yeah,
take
that's
as
what
sort
men
of.
were like in the late 70s.
Well,
Well, I think it's more
they all
about
have an
like,
ulterior motive.
Is it
yeah.
ulterior?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I would. Okay. Well, let me just finish this real quick. I know there's a lag. No, I think that it's supposed to be sort of the perspective of the female, right? It's like each man is not trustable in any of these. Even the boyfriend of the other chick is fallible and doesn't believe her. So you have this neighbor who's supposed to be sort of the acting coach. He actually isn't that. I mean, I guess he's a scumbag, but I don't know. I don't know whether he's actually a scumbag or the movie just wants me to think that because he's a guy. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to get at.
Well, they give him a redemption
think
arc later. A redemption, possibly.
I think the movie wants you to think he is, because he's that guy who hangs out with a girl and he's the friend until she gives him some butt. And I know a lot of guys like that. I happen to be one of those guys, so not necessarily a bad guy.
Wait, are you talking about the boyfriend or the neighbor?
No, the neighbor.
The neighbor.
Okay.
I think he was the acting coach because he was trying to, that was his end. That was his end,
Fair.
That's how I get to know you. That's how I get all your secrets and find out about what you like and don't like, instead of being a little more direct. Because that's how a lot of guys do it, and they become the male best friend. You can't be direct and just be like,
Oh, I think we dropped.
It's like Mike blacked out because he was speaking unsightly things.
No, but I get his
that.
point. Yeah.
The point's very common, in fact. And I think that's another part of what I was gonna say is I think they did a very decent job of depicting what people imagine the late 70s to be like. I'm pretty sure everybody wasn't a sinister ass who just wanted to get some in return, but
yeah, they certainly make it out like it's just women are just ripe for the picking, and they're just being victimized every second of the day. So
right. And then
I
you
don't
get
know.
a guy like what's his name again? Alcala. Um, his name is not Ronald. It's not
I
Rodrigo.
know. I know. His name is Roybert
Rodney.
Rodney
Rodney.
Al
You get a guy
Rodney
like Rodney
Alcacia.
who
Alcala.
isn't cares
Al
Alcala. Yeah.
Oh, Kala. Okay, I thought it was an
And
I.
you get a guy like Rodney who, although he's not charismatic, he knows all the right things to say.
Yeah,
And the
because he's a
charisma
psychopath.
becomes the right. And charisma becomes the unseen weapon in all of in everybody else's vernacular and mannerisms. Um,
Well, he's
I
cultured.
think they did a good job of portraying that, though.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
I think
made
so. Yeah.
they made a cultured character because what is an intellectual woman most intoxicated with? A man who can talk to her about things she's interested in. And this
Yes.
man can talk about poetry. He can talk about artsy stuff. And at the time, in the 60s and 70s, that was a huge thing. That, like you said, the hippie generation, everybody was trying to evolve their minds.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And him
Which now,
being so fluent in culture was attractive to the ladies. That's why when he was on the actual show, he was able to give them the nuanced responses that would hit on their dopamine.
Yeah. He knew what they wanted to hear.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that everybody in 2024 now? So everybody's a serial
Hell
killer,
no.
sociopath, psycho killer.
No, but I
Have
get your
you?
point, Keelan. Yeah, there is. It was a very much a he was a very very modern sort of mentality, and I don't know if that was necessarily. It's kind of weird
Intentional.
because he's saying all the right things, yet he's doing absolutely heinous things to women. So there's a little bit of a weird
And men.
signals.
Right. Have you seen Pop the Balloon videos?
Oh
What?
God, I don't.
Modern dating
It's
is terrible.
ignorance on the
Oh
internet.
yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, yeah.
20v1 and all that nonsense.
Right. These
I mean, where
videos
did you
are
think he was
awful.
going after reality TV? That's a step up, if you ask me, from reality TV. At least
Yeah,
I
well,
thought
I just
she
mean
was
to say
finna.
that his disposition about feminism was definitely a 2024 disposition and not a 1974. Even if he had
Yes.
the
Agree.
even if he had the cunning to sort of say the right things, I don't think that he would have said them in the manner that he did.
Right.
It felt very modern instead of
Right.
like second wave feminism or third wave feminism or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, so her name is Anna. Cheryl and her neighbor, whose name we never get, we're just gonna call him neighbor acting coach guy.
Mhm.
They go to the bar, they have a couple of drinks. She's made it clear like 3 or 4 different times verbally that they're just friends, and somehow, some way, he still guilts his way into her draws.
That did happen.
That happened. At first I was like, okay, he made a pass at her. That's gonna end that relationship there. And then they wake up together, and I was like, whoa, the 70s were a different time.
That's what I'm saying.
It was like the Wild West back then.
Like, wow, what? Look, she was, but then again, we realized what really, so I'm thinking like, okay, she was nice enough to be like, oh, we could just have another round. But no, what really happened is she weighed her options and was like, yeah, this is the best I'm gonna get tonight.
I
And
guess
that
if
the way
that
you
was
took
her
that?
motivation, like I
no,
just
that's
felt
not
like
the way I took that, but right, what Nick said, I think that
Oh,
was her motivation. But you were
if that
saying
was
that,
her, yeah, if that was her motivation, then I guess I understand it. But it also was like, okay, she was on her way out, she was about to leave, and then she decides like, no, okay, I'll throw this guy a bone, which I
right,
didn't know why she didn't, except for the fact that he lives right next to her. So maybe she was afraid that something would happen if she didn't.
maybe, but I
With-
think she wanted it as much as he wanted it, but not from him. And then she weighed her options and was like, you know what?
Yeah, I guess, right?
Fine.
that is not the impression I got, but okay.
It wasn't the initial impression I got. I'm saying that was a possibility that we might have missed, or that I might have missed.
Okay.
The initial I got is that he guilted her into some ass.
Right. I
Yeah.
thought it was some pity sex, and then there was a whole lot of regret afterwards.
I mean, there's always
Yeah.
gonna be regret.
Somebody's rubbing
Not
against
e-
their mic though. Who's doing
Hey,
that?
It's a microphone, not a fuzzy wall. Quit it.
Yeah. No Diddy.
No, dude.
Well,
man.
actually,
Yeah. Well,
Oh man, I forgot he was in that movie. Anyway,
he
so
There's a
that
lot-
was his that was literally his line.
right? A
oh,
lot of
shit.
Diddy.
You ever smoke a Jeffrey? It takes a whole new meaning now.
Oh, never smoking a Jeffrey.
Not ever.
Any
Not
type of
ever.
it. Um,
Just make sure you rub the fuzzy wall if you do.
Mhm.
But so she wakes up the next morning. No, well, actually, before they went to the bar, Cheryl's on the phone with her agent, and this is actually more pivotal than the bar. Cheryl's on the phone with her agent and basically telling her that she's quitting acting. She doesn't see her way out of it, and she's not even able to pay her rent. Once she says that, all of a sudden her agent has a job and sends her on the dating show because this is apparently where actors go to die unless you're Sally Field.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, you know, she just kind of needs anything she can get at this point, and you know, those shows were immensely popular in the 70s. So
oh yeah, shit, they're
And then-
still popular now.
that's true.
Go and watch
That's
TV
true.
Land.
Right? That's very true. So it's not out of the ballpark to say like, oh, you know, there's been a lot of actors. I mean, Aaron Paul was on The Price is Right.
Who?
You know, the guy from Breaking Bad. The
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
yeah, he
Oh.
was on. Like so many celebrities were on The Price is Right. So
Oh,
it's
well,
not
the game
like
was-
are everywhere.
yeah,
The
They go on
game
a
was
lot of
on
these
Change
shows.
of Heart.
right. Yeah,
no,
a lot of people
JC
go
on
on
Taylor
games.
was on Change Your Heart. The game is a rapper. Just saying.
Yeah, and apparently, never mind.
And he's a decent actor for the record. I mean, he's not the best actor I would suggest any of his movies, but if you saw one of them, you wouldn't be disappointed.
I like Most
Wouldn't I?
Def better.
And except for what was that? I forgot what the name of it. I think it's Deep Blue or some shit like that, where his name is Big Meat. That's when you'll be disappointed. Your name is what?
Bruh.
Bruh?
Wait, what?
Oh, Waist
Come
Deep. I
on,
think it's
man.
called Waist Deep. I forget the name of it. What? I'm not saying nothing crazy. That's the name. That's his name in the movie, Big Meat.
Who did that to him?
He did that to himself,
He
probably.
did that to himself.
And look, and there's a part 1 and a part 2. I think part 2 was like the
Oh,
return of Big
no.
Meat or some shit like that.
No,
I'm not even-
no, stop
or
it.
Big Meat's Revenge. I gotta. I'm not even trying to be funny, right?
No, not today.
Oh man.
Well, okay, yeah. So she gets the part in, you know, she gets the call for the acting thing. She goes on the show. Things happen. You know, she ends up getting to the studio. You know, I will say, you know, since we're starting to introduce that storyline, I did feel like the girl with the boyfriend who identifies the killer, like I felt like her storyline was a little bit
Vague.
it didn't seem yeah, it
Didn't
didn't
get fleshed
seem,
out.
It didn't seem like it was fleshed out enough. It almost felt like a kind of like a convenience or a contrivance or inserted in order to create some more tension, but the tension never really went anywhere.
Right.
I totally understand. You know what's funny? You saying that makes me
Mhm.
realize. After I watched it, I read a quick article. Damn, I can't remember where that article was. One of these damn sites. But I read a quick article. I think it was in Hollywood Reporter. Yeah, I think it was in a Hollywood Reporter. Anyway, I read a quick article and it was talking about how Ian McDonald, the writer, how one of his fears when they wrote this script and why he wanted to rewrite it or did rewrite it, or I can't remember that part, was he was afraid that, or excuse me, is that he wanted it to be seen more as art than it is content, just some content on Netflix. Because at the end of the day, this is a true story. It could almost be leveled as an entertainment documentary, kind of like Tiger King.
Well, yeah,
right?
thanks a lot, Captain Obvious. Every creator wants their product to be art and not content. Nobody wants
my
to actually
point-
call their art content.
Right. But my point is, in a way, he might have been successful. And I think the word I'm looking for is in a contrived way with characters like the girl Laura. Because that could be somebody who didn't exist at all, and they just created her, and she
I
added a
think
different
that that's
layer.
yeah. I think that that's the case, but I only think that that's the case in order to paint a sort of atmosphere that no man can be trusted because
It
her
does.
whole yeah, I mean, I think it does that fine, and if that's the sort of like the thing that you're trying to get across, I think they do that just fine. So I'm not really criticizing the execution. I will say that it's um it 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 almost takes you out of the movie a little bit just because of the fact that she like every man she encounters screws her
He's a
over
piece of
even though
shit.
she's like and she has no ability to get the information out, like we've always talked about this, like one of the worst contrivances in movies is when somebody needs to tell somebody something and they just can't do it.
Right.
That's always so super frustrating. So she did that a few times, but then every man that heard her what she had to say
Minus
didn't
one,
believe her. I mean, who?
the janitor. And I think the
The
point there
janitor
is
didn't hear what she had to say, so I guess but
right.
he
I
was
was gonna
also
say
apathetic about the fact that like, the security guard screwed her over.
right.
I think
And that
I
was what I was
think
gonna
the
say.
janitor was more willing to listen though, because they never really gave him a chance though.
But it was so late in the game by that point. And I think that's kind of the point is by the time she gets to the janitor, she's been to the police once. She went to the guy she's supposed to be in love with. She went to the head of security who's supposed to give a shit. Then she ends up at the janitor, and then it takes what, a day, a week, however long later, her boyfriend comes back around, and then she goes to the police and ends up in the same situation. So the only person had she actually sat and talked to him that would say if they wanted to do something was the janitor. And the reality is, what would
Yeah.
he have done once he actually heard her out?
Okay, I think I've pinpointed it actually. So the reason that this whole thing exists is because this guy, Rodney Alcala, got away with so many murders that the
Yes.
conclusion that they're coming up with is that there was a grand conspiracy amongst men to not believe anything a woman had to say. And so that needed to be reinforced through this character, Laura. Because that's
can't
the only
disagree.
I mean, I think that's really what the point of what they're trying to do with this is in a way to explain why he got to get away with it for so long. Because even
Mhm.
at the end of the movie, they talk about how so many people came forward and he just kept getting away with it.
Right.
Instead of maybe probing a little bit deeper and wondering and trying to figure out whether this guy was a CIA asset or not.
No, it's too early in history for that, Nick.
It's not too early in history for that, man. That's for sure.
Right.
I would definitely not think so, considering what history looks like already. But you get what I'm saying, though, right?
All I have to say is that Charles Manson was in and out of prison repeatedly before he ever did the
Charles
thing that
Manson
he
was
did.
definitely an MK Ultra subject. What are we talking
Yeah.
about?
Well,
Again with
that's
that-
what I'm talking about.
Third time this week that's come up
What, the
Is it?
Manson
for
stuff?
me. Well, MK Ultra and Manson
Yeah.
being a FBI operative or CIA operative.
Who the hell
Yep.
are you talking
Killed
to?
it.
Where that's a normal. Never mind. Continue. Sorry.
No, it's
It's-
it's not coming up in conversation. It's coming up in various chats that I'm seeing online with
That's
different
crazy.
content creators, because this stuff is kind of relevant. Like with the whole Diddy thing, they think he's
Yeah.
an FBI informant, and they're saying this is why he got away with it for so long. Because if my stupid ass know what he up to, how the hell the government
Right.
don't?
Yeah, exactly. And if you get caught jaywalking, you're getting a fucking ticket. But then
Right.
people like this Rodney guy can go off and kill a whole bunch of people with impunity and then just not really get enough repercussions for it until they run their purpose. When honestly, I really think that the serial killer movement was created in order to make sure that the hippie movement was destroyed.
Right.
Fair
I mean-
enough. So many of them were ex-military, and
Yep.
when the story that we're told is that they were serial killers, not that they were sent to do a job.
Right.
And a lot of the more famous ones were right here in LA.
Oh yeah.
And
Big
I don't
time.
want to be on that list. So back to the
So let's move on.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah, fair enough, Keelan. Thanks for being practical.
I mean, love the discussion though. It's like, man, this is deep. Let's hit that little button and finish this off here.
Who is
No,
this?
but,
That was all to say. Like, I think that I think that if there was somebody that was a little bit more awake to the situation, they might tie in a little bit of ambiguity as to why he was able to get away with it for so long, and not just put it squarely on the shoulders of this unspoken conspiracy of men that just never believed any women.
Right. Well, and
Oh.
I think that's something that I think is interesting because as you note that as you note that conspiracy, this whole thing gets rounded up by someone who essentially had willpower.
She was smart.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
knew
yeah, yeah.
exactly the situation she was in and knew exactly how to make sure that she survived.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's how all of this got blown up.
Yeah.
But
I think she
Speaking of-
executed that perfectly.
yeah, oh my God, I think
Yeah.
as an actor, and if that's the real way that story happened, which is what they say even at the end, yeah, that was
Right.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But so what also happens after Cheryl sleeps with her neighbor, we get another girl that we see waking up on a bench. Clearly a child, but we see a girl waking up on a bench. She ends up being woken up by the police. Not even asked if she's a runaway or anything. Again, clearly a kid sleeping on a bench. She robs a laundromat, basically. Ain't no basically, she robs a laundromat. But very petty. She gets what, $4, $3 out of the whole deal,
If that.
if
Yeah.
that. And she meets Rodney as she's sitting over in the stairwell, and he's such a creepo. He just walks up taking pictures of strangers in public. Wow, that just sounded like, never mind, don't worry about it. And that kind of turns into its own things. They become friends in a way, and she hops in the car with him after being wooed and seduced. My question would be is how old was he at this time? Because I read a little bit too much before we shot this about
Well,
what
he was
did.
born in 43 and this
Oh,
is
no.
78, so he's like 25.
Yeah, it was some. No, that would be like 35, no?
Well, he was born in 43 and this is in 78. Yeah, I guess you're right. Sorry about that. Yeah, 35.
But either way, yeah, I read way too much. Be careful what you read on the internet, folks. And she hops in the car with him. They go and they're hanging out. And they end up in the middle of nowhere because she's agrees to, impromptu photo shoot in the middle of nowhere. Then we get back to Cheryl. Cheryl gets to the sound stage. Everything is cool with her. She meets the makeup artist and they're offering her weed and everything is cool. And she's like, no, I'm good. Then she meets the host and he's kind of a douchebag, but he has to be nice because this is his job. And then
You
he
mean
basically comes
Buster
in-
from Arrested Development?
Yes, but that's has nothing to do with
What-
what we're talking about right now.
What
Oh, you
was
didn't
he
watch
being
Arrested
nice?
Development?
Who?
Yes, he was being
the
shown
host?
as nice. He's
I
in
thought he
charge.
was. I didn't think he was being very nice. I thought he was quite rude, actually.
But you're in
Yeah, he was an
2024.
asshole.
You're in 2024. In 1977, I think that would have been him playing coy, playing nice, like, hey, darling, this is what I need you to do. Toots. That kind of deal.
Still a
Okay.
misogynist, though.
Right. Is kind of what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. See? Wasn't
Mhm.
that great with the words. But he basically tells them put her in some flattering clothes. We see something to the girl Laura. We see her arrive with her boyfriend and his parents, which I think his parents was a bit much, but I think that also paints that their age, like they're young adults in that
Mhm.
moment. You see what I'm saying? Because if they had shown up alone, we would assume they were probably like in their 30s or so. I just went to a little filming, but taking his parents along with him and his girlfriend going to the show, it paints them as being like college students, which means what happened to her friend that we find out about while she's kind of going through this whole thing, because she's one of the people who went to the police and wasn't listened to. It kind of puts that into perspective, I think.
Yeah, he definitely preyed on younger girls.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they did had a very subvert way of saying that without saying that. Like, it's really only coming full circle for me now. That's we're recapping it. Like, man, yeah, this
Well,
dude really.
You didn't catch when they was at the LA Times and he was showing all the Polaroids of children.
And they said one of them was a 13-year-old. The
Yeah.
parents, yeah, I caught that.
Yeah.
And
So
that's actually one of his actual victims were 13.
Well,
yeah,
he
yeah.
was a convicted SO, so
yeah.
that
Right.
nothing's out of the wheelhouse.
I wish I'm gonna figure out what the hell you just said to me. I know it was something of that nature. I just gotta decipher it. I just hate that we have
He
to
was
talk
an
in these
offender of
encryptions.
a particular type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I know it. Yeah.
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 I don't be knowing all of these acronyms and shit, son. I'm like,
You got to learn the YouTube censorship lingo, buddy.
oh,
Right.
God.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes I just write it down on a paper and go look it up later.
Put it like
oh, that's what
There
he
you
said.
go.
put it like this: anything that starts with the S word, you
I know
probably
that
don't
part.
want to say.
I
Yeah.
know.
So
I know that part.
It
Look at
rhymes
this.
with
Yeah, so
textual.
Here's a little lesson
Right.
we could clip out for somebody who's like me. And even though I'm not super old, I'm like, what? I'm a little out of the loop sometimes on certain things, guys, because I be in my own world.
Yeah, I'm way older than you. So-
I know that's why it's not an age thing. It's an awareness thing. I just be missing
Right.
things, and then I'd be like, oh shit, I should have learned that. Like, oh shit, 6 years ago now. My bad, y'all. No disrespect. No disrespect.
All right, let's get through this. Come on now.
So anyway, she meets everybody. They meet the family, and then we meet his third victim, which is a lady named Charlie, who needed help moving into her apartment. And I thought that was actually that I wanted to kind of just get to that part, then we get through the show. But I wanted to get to the Charlie thing because at first I wasn't understanding, like, why did we go 77 to 78 to 79? Like, what is the point of that? Why are we in the future? And then I meet Charlie and I go, oh, they're cataloging his victims in front of us. That's
Right.
clever.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
very
mean,
clever.
it was fine. It was fine to do that. It breaks it up because again, this isn't a very grandiose story, and really, I think they utilize their time well because what they're really trying to do is like give you a background story to who he is, so that when the show happens, you gonna understand the tension and the menace that's happening.
Right.
Very Quentin-esque.
Yeah, I think it was appropriate. I think it was well done to sort of give the backstory as to what was happening, and they threw in the red herring that the girl, the young girl, wasn't actually a flashback. It was a in the future. It's after the show.
A happenstance type of deal. That's
Yeah.
what
She was the
let you know he
current
makes
and
it
last
through something.
victim.
Yes. Yeah.
No,
Well, for the movie, I
current, but
mean.
not last.
For the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this story is fucked up. But anyway, so yeah, Riley's noticed by a chick in the audience who we later found out is Laura. And she relives the whole scenario through her memories and visions while she's nervous and kind of freaking out. And we get to see that. Nothing really much to see, but just understand why she's freaking out.
Yeah. She left her friend at the beach with him, even though she got a weird vibe from him.
Right.
And her friend ended up dead the next day.
Apparently, a few people got a weird vibe from meeting him. Because remember,
the guy at the LA Times.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you see in his photo album afterwards, he's in it.
Yeah, he was. I saw that.
So he got a hold of that dude.
Yeah, I saw that. And he looked nervous, but he looked willing.
Yeah.
But did he take a picture of him, or did he become a victim?
He had his shirt off and he was sitting on a chair looking at him. Take a picture.
So we can only know that he definitely took a picture, but it's possible that everybody that was in his photo album was a victim.
That's what my assumption was.
I didn't catch the picture, so I wasn't sure about that. Okay.
Yeah, my assumption was everybody, and that's when he snatched the book back from old girl when they were in the car when she saw his picture.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
and he
we
seems
see
to go
Rodney,
after the very weak.
Yes. He didn't seem like the strongest person himself. He seemed like the outcast type, a little eccentric, and he kind of took advantage of that.
You can also tell that in his personality, he's used to being the apex predator because the moment he gets questioned by the police, he crumbles.
Yeah, absolutely,
So
and that's exactly what I'm about to get at.
He's not a stable, cool, calm, collected guy. He's actually just used to manipulating people that don't know any better.
Yeah, he was sweating bullets over there when police came to visit him at the LA Times. And that's also where we get, like Nick just alluded or just said a minute ago, we get a couple of other tidbits about him, like his photo book. And we even see people start acting weird around him when they see the police talking to him. They start to see the real him. And I think that's also what saved Cheryl a lot later, because after Cheryl is encouraged to ask some different questions and change the question cards, we see Rodney intimidating contestant number 2. They kind of get into a little passive aggressive spout, and number 2 is like, "Hey, meet me outside after the show." And he's like, "How about we exchange information?" So he looks at his ID, which I was like, "That's crazy." And he hands him a photo of somebody looked like they were all sliced and diced up.
A victim.
Yeah, a victim. That's exactly what I actually have down. He shows him a picture of a victim. We don't nondescript. But either way, so we already talked about Laura and her boyfriend not really believing. Cheryl begins to grill the contestants, and she ends up rounding down to this question: what are girls for? And this is the main question that really ends up helping everybody, because she's already brung up shit like Einstein and found
She's
ways.
very smart.
Yeah, she's already kind of figured out who these guys are. She's figured out number 1's a dunce. He doesn't know nothing. She's figured out number 2 is mannish, but she can't quite pin number 3. And that's how she really ends up with Rodney.
Well, the ladies who were smoking weed in the back kind of told her they were all lug nuts and, not very sophisticated. And that, if she just applied a little bit of pressure, she'd be able to outshine them, because she's a sophisticated, strong, determined woman.
Right.
Yeah. Of course.
Not sure if
Like
I like
all of them, because they're all that.
Yeah, man. Glad you're with the program.
Oh yeah, you know me.
Yeah. So because the only one that is the only one that's telling her what she wants to hear is an absolute psychopath, I'm sure there's some sort of message there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know quite what it could be, but it doesn't seem to be the message that they might be trying to make. I don't know.
Be careful for the nice guy, I would assume.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Be careful of all men, but especially any man that agrees with you.
Oh, he's nice.
Because they're gonna kill you.
Well, the contestant number 1 he wasn't sophisticated, but he just stumbled a lot. He was nervous and he didn't have the
And to
charisma.
be fair, he
and
wasn't a skis. He probably is
Right.
a nice guy. Yeah.
Right. And contestant number 2 was definitely there just to get some butt. That's
Yeah.
all it was for him. He was the atypical 70s machismo guy. That was
Right.
him.
Why me?
Right. All he needed was some Panther piss, and then he'd have been
I
in the
was about to
game.
say,
Yeah.
Work 60% of the time, every time.
Right. That's exactly who he made me think of. And
Yeah, that's
contestant
true.
number 3. And matter of fact, I want to make a correction. I said Richard Ramirez earlier. I think it was more Ted Bundy.
Yeah,
'Cause
same.
I think he was the one who was the more of the charismatic.
Killers, right?
Yeah. My bad.
Well, yeah.
But it seems, like I said, also, it seems like there were a lot of them, especially centered around Los Angeles and California in general.
Oh yeah.
But he was contestant number 3, being that charming, progressive guy. He could appeal to those kind of sentiments. Women just need to be heard more and listened to.
Yeah.
I want to hear you out so I can know how to find you.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But Cheryl ends up meeting all the contestants. Number 2 warns her about number 3, like, be careful with this jerk or whatever. What do you say, asshole?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Which is really the hero move of the entire show.
Yeah,
movie.
he saved her.
Agreed.
He saved her.
At least he was able to alert her alertedness.
Yeah.
Or alarm bell, so that she would be on guard with him, because he recognized something was wrong.
Yeah, he's like, hey, look, I know I'm a sex pest, but this guy's going to kill you. Be careful.
Right. I wouldn't hurt you. I'm just going to stop talking to you type of.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they end up going to dinner afterwards because she does choose number 3. She's rushed out of the studio because they don't like. Well, Ed doesn't like her, so nobody else likes her because he's the boss. He's waiting for her at the doors. Creepo sign number 1. Actually, creepo sign number 2.
Really?
Creepo sign number 1 probably was when he grabbed her waist.
Oh yeah.
I would have said that more before just waiting by the door. I mean, if you're interested, I mean, you go for it, right? I mean, does that necessarily make you a weirdo?
You, sir, live in 2024 and shouldn't make statements like that out loud.
I mean, like, it's not unreasonable to think that
Yeah.
way, but it's all about the perspective of the chick. You know what I mean? Like, it's like every romantic comedy. If the guy was just slightly less good looking, everything the guy in the romantic comedy does is disgusting.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's
So
exactly
it's
Right.
like, it's just the level of attractiveness. That's all that is.
like, oh, women don't like when you do that. No, women don't like when you do
You
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's harsh, but true.
I've said that so many times to different people, women conversations. It's like you do all this stuff, but you don't mind it when it's the right guy saying it or doing it. It's when it's the
Yeah.
wrong guy.
Yeah.
That's when it's
I
the
mean,
problem.
I would think that's anybody though. Like,
They don't realize it.
take most single guys. If Halle Berry walks up to them and says, "Buy me lunch," they're not asking any questions. But when the chick that they have to look at every day
I
across the counter,
would. I would ask her, "Hey, aren't you the millionaire? Buy me lunch."
This is a point. That is a point. But I'm just
This
saying.
is
the look-
2024, baby.
Might do that.
That's okay. She could buy me and my wife lunch. How about that? She's a millionaire.
hey, she might need the company. You know, just want to
Right.
talk.
Yeah.
A single guy's probably not going to question that too thoroughly.
Which
All
is,
right,
but that's
fair
kind
enough.
of more of a sort of point. Somebody who looks like Halle Berry walk up to a single guy and just want to go out to lunch with him. They're not asking anything.
Right.
But
Right.
let him look like Jack Black.
Oh, right.
Oh
Different
yeah, of course not.
conversation.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that's the wrong. Sorry. Jack Black walking up to a guy, yeah, of course that's gonna go wrong. But if they're not as pretty as Halle Berry is my point. I'm not even gonna name another female because that would be wrong, I guess.
Jack Black
Actually-
is slowly morphing into a gnome.
I think he would get a kick out of that statement.
I was thinking dwarf, but yeah, I'll go
Yeah.
along with that.
I
Yeah.
think he'd creep up on both of you guys for
I
Halloween.
think he needs to
and
be a
make
little bit more
weird voice.
masculine to be a dwarf, to be honest. So I'm going with
All
gnome.
right, you make a good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he might because he looks like he has a second breakfast.
Yeah,
11.
exactly. Yeah.
You tell me off air what the fuck a second breakfast is. You hear me?
See, you didn't watch the movie.
Ah, 12 hours coming your way, Keelan. 12 hours.
You didn't watch the movie still.
Oh, damn
No.
it. Y'all not gonna make me watch that shit for real, are you?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we are, of course.
Me, you, and Zion, we gonna post up and we gonna get it cracking.
If it's only
Yeah.
12 hours, that's 3 hours less than what I assume. So I guess it's not that bad.
How about we
Hey.
get through the regular the director's cut it regular version first, which is not that much less, but a lot less.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about a 2.5 to 3
It's
hours.
gonna take me a month to watch all that shit.
for sure.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
All right, so they're at dinner
yeah.
and she gets the ick.
Well, they're
because
at dinner and they're having all these different talks, which I didn't really understand. I'm not gonna go through all of them.
they're
But
just talking about plays.
Right.
talking about plays, talking about her agent and all this stuff. And I'm trying to pinpoint, and this is why I want to bring this up. I want to pinpoint exactly when she got the ick.
Right, because she just kind of signaled to the bartender like, nah, like she knew something. It was like, well, what was it? exactly?
It
I
was
think
when
it was.
Yeah.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Nick.
No, go ahead, man.
I think it was when he made the statement right after they were talking about plays and how he's so in tune with he knows all these different plays and all these different people, and everything she liked was his favorite one. And then all of a sudden he says, "I don't hide who I am." Well, who you are, sir, is very, very fucking creepy. Because
Well,
you
he
know
also
way too
got
much and you're
hippy dippy
smothering.
with her. So
See, I
he
didn't
says
quite
something
pick
about
up on that.
he compares her to Patty Smith, and she's like, "I'm no Patty Smith,"
Oh,
but he's
yeah.
like, "No, but it's like your soul, it's like your
You're
vibe."
channeling
You know?
her.
You're
yeah,
right.
yeah, and she was like, "Well, that's kind of far out," which
I
you know
didn't
is a
really
get that
reference.
though.
Huh?
I didn't really get that. I didn't understand it. I mean,
Well, if you were an LSD experiment from the hippie era, you might get upset that somebody is, poo-pooing on your metaphysics.
Mm.
Yeah, I can understand. So he got testy, basically.
Yeah, he just got emotional.
I
Again,
did.
he has a very thin veneer of control. It's not
Right.
like he's not the Anton Chigurh where he,
Who?
gets shot. No Country for Old Men.
Oh, right.
Where there is just no getting him past a point. Like this guy is cracking at the seams, and he's just barely holding it together.
Right.
Right.
Because he was dead inside, and this guy,
Yeah,
he's only pretending to be dead inside.
right. Exactly.
He's actually a ball of emotions in an ocean of. What was it? Just the line?
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
Right. Oh man, so
But-
many Ron Burgundies.
Love it. But yeah, so she ends up leaving. She tells him her car is back in the lot. He's seemingly supposed to walk the other way because I guess that's where his car is. He doesn't. He goes, "Well, I'm going to walk you to the lot." You can see on her face, "Please don't. Please don't." He walks her
Yeah.
anyway, asks her for her number. She gives him a fake number, which, duh, dude. Like, it was very clear she was going to get his dude a fake number. And clearly he's now creeped her out because they go to part ways. He asks her to read her number back, so he's clearly gotten wind of it. He sees what's going on, and she's kind of between a rock and a hard place at this point because she don't know what the hell she wrote on that paper. It wasn't her number.
And that's where she messed up.
Yeah, you just go one digit off from your regular number.
Or 2 digits in different spots so that you can easily
Yeah.
remember what you said versus what's real. That way you
Right.
don't mess that up. That's a 1970s kind of reaction. In 2024, I say you give them the real number when they call, block it.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem solved.
Yep.
In 2024, they asking for that IG.
Right.
Yeah,
and
there
then
you
you
go.
give it to them, and as soon as you realize who it is, block it.
Block.
Problem solved.
Yep.
But he ends up saying, "I'll see you around," and she says, "Yeah, maybe." And he goes, "And then I'll bash your head in. Well, bash your fucking head in." Whoa.
What was that? What'd you say? Huh? What?
Say, huh?
Killer said,
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
I mean, but it goes to what Nick's been saying about him the whole time: short fuse, thin veil. There's really nothing.
He's only
hide who he is.
manageable when he's being flattered. This is another I think this is another part of the whole commentary about masculinity too, right? So he is very fragilely masculine, and any moment his ego gets wounded even slightly, he turns into a psychopathic killer.
Don't make
So-
me hate this movie.
I know. I don't hate this movie. I just think that some of the illusions are quite heavy-handed, which is fine. I wouldn't expect anything less from Anna Kendrick because that's the type of person she is, but still fine.
You know that she is no longer doing comedy. She's only doing drama from this point forward in her career.
Oh yeah, because
I'm
she was
okay
so
with that.
good at comedy.
She was awkward,
You
but
know-
She was okay.
The reason is kind of crazy.
She had that
but
stupid movie where she was playing with cups on a stage. Who gives a shit?
which one is that? Pitch
I don't
Perfect?
remember the name.
Pitch
but
Perfect.
No,
Yeah.
it was was it Pitch Perfect?
Or is that
Yeah.
the Hitman movie?
Oh shit. Oh god. We did watch that a couple of movies with Anna Kendrick in the last few years, didn't we?
I don't recall specifically.
Oh no, we reviewed a few Anna Kendrick movies. I looked through her catalog earlier. Either
yeah.
way,
Oh, okay.
I
I like her well enough. The zombie musical was a bit much.
don't know why I brung up that other thing. That actually sucks.
Mhm.
All right, let's get
She
done with this.
saved-
We're almost
He
done.
races her to the car. She
Yeah.
gets saved by a bunch of dudes walking out of the studio, and she's able to get in her car and leave. Laura's boyfriend takes her to the police. They don't care. They're not listening. Cheryl leaves LA. Rodney is fooled by the young lady who he is
Wait a minute.
taking advantage of.
Are we going to skip past the awkward moment in the hallway with the neighbor?
That's worth
Uh,
mentioning.
I don't think that that's worth mentioning.
Well, I get where Mike's.
It's already
I get
too
where
late.
Mike's
We
coming
did it
from.
now. We mentioned it. It's done.
Yeah,
It's been
right.
mentioned.
I get where Mike's coming from. So she
It
does
was
walk
an
by the
awkward
neighbor,
moment.
and they have a very awkward moment. My only question is it awkward because you gave up the goods, or is it awkward because you feel like he guilted you and took it from you?
I thought it was awkward because he was trying to, like, yeah, I already hit that.
But is it okay? So is it
I don't
like
think that's what he was
okay?
doing. I think it
I
was
don't
her.
think so either. I think he really liked her.
I do too.
Like I don't get the vibe that he was just trying to get some, action from her and then never deal with her again. Like he clearly really liked her. Now, of course, she doesn't like him. That's totally one thing.
And so
But
she
I don't
regrets it, and she's trying to guilt trip him.
yeah, maybe, but I don't get the vibe that he was like angry. I think he was kind of hurt because he actually liked her.
And I
you
like
know?
my version better, but okay.
Yeah,
And the way
anyways.
he happened up on that ass isn't
Right.
the way he wanted to, so it kind of looked
No, of
bad.
course not. Yeah. Right.
He wanted it to mean something.
Yeah.
It meant the world to him.
Nah,
yeah,
it did.
Yeah.
He knew how it came. Anyway, pause. Uh,
All
So
right,
we cut
sorry.
back. So we cut back to the sort of climax of the movie where he has bludgeoned the young girl that we saw in what we
Yes.
thought was a flashback, but is now a flash forward.
future.
Yeah, this
That
is
was current.
after. Yeah, this is current time. This is after the show, and he is sobbing in the desert as she looks to be dead, but is not dead. She's just bound and bloody, and it looks like she's had some terrible things done to her.
Yeah.
And through through sheer wiliness, she understands exactly what she has to do in order to get the hell away from this guy.
Are
And-
you
And those were
okay?
exact quotes too.
What's that?
The lines were there for that part in that scene were
Oh,
direct
yeah?
quotes. Yeah.
Damn, man. That shit's tough.
That's literally what she said to the guy and
Yeah.
kind of played in his brain.
Yeah. She was, like that is a genius. That's a stroke of genius and self-preservation that I think that is commendable for sure.
Yeah, that was
because
40 kept on him.
Yeah. Well, because she had the wherewithal to sort of understand how she needed to act in this scenario to get just enough trust back so that she could get the hell out of there as soon as possible.
Look, the skills it takes to be a runaway, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, kind of. Mm-hmm.
Especially when you come from a broken home already, and you probably, they don't really go into her background or details, but you can assume the reason she ran away from home was because things were less than ideal. And she had to figure out how to survive at a young age because she looked like she's only about maybe 16, 15 already, just at that point. Because they don't really say how old she is, but she looks like she's already had it tough and had to figure out how to survive. Because, what little kid knows how to jimmy rig a washing machine and steal the coins out?
Right.
One whose parents
Of
might have
course.
owned one.
Right.
But
yeah, no,
anyways,
absolutely.
she's able to get his trust after doing some coaxing. He's crying, and he finally gets her untied, and they go back to the car. And he has her trust enough to, he's going to stop by a gas station to go to the bathroom. And the moment the camera sort of moves him towards
She
the
turns
bathroom,
into a track star.
yeah, you see that the door is already open to the car, and she is bolting down the highway towards a diner, which is where she was
Good on
able
her.
to contact the police.
Which to me, I'm like, how long was he in there? Because we got to remember, he's clearly going through a level of psychosis at this point. So I'm thinking, yeah, they made it seem like he was only in there for a few minutes, but he was really like in there just going
And
through
how-
it mentally, trying to clean himself up. Because if he's trying to clean himself like he didn't have blood all over
Yeah.
him and all of that.
Right.
gonna
And
take a while.
how close was that diner?
You can see when she was running, it was down the way. It was probably about a quarter mile to, something a little bit
'Cause they-
like that.
Okay, because it looked like it would be in a
about half
small
country
town, and that
mile.
was real fast response.
About 500 paces.
Well, there could have been a cop at the diner too, right?
Probably.
that's what I'm
That's what I'm. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. You would think if it's a tiny town, there might be a cop there anyways.
I've been to a tiny town like that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he comes out of the bathroom, and obviously she is already long gone, and we sort of see her perspective as she's in the diner, and we hear the audio of him getting arrested,
Mhm.
and she steps out, and sees that he's on the floor getting handcuffed. And the last scene is her just beginning to cry.
Right.
He can
It's-
breathe, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Now that she knows that she's safe, she can sort of feel the way that she really wants to feel, but she was in survival mode. So she finally has that space to like let it all out.
Right.
And then fade
so
to
after
black.
that, well, Fade to Black will give a little background for those who are listening to us and maybe didn't get a chance to get to the movie yet. Just a little background on Rodney. So Rodney was arrested, released on bail, murdered 2 more people.
After that,
Yeah.
Then he was rearrested, and that's when his trail was clearly discovered because at that point he ends up being convicted of 7 murders. However, he is possibly tied to over 130 incidents around the country. And then after 31 years in prison, he was up for acquittal, and the runaway young girl that initially put him behind bars is now an adult. She shows up to testify and puts him away forever. He ends up dying behind bars. Cheryl moves on to
Recently.
live outside of California. Yeah, recently. He moves on to live outside of California. Excuse me. Cheryl moves on to live outside of California with a private lifestyle, a family, and clearly doesn't want to be bothered.
right,
As
Yeah,
well
he-
as the young lady, because her name's not disclosed.
right, and he just died just 3 years ago in 2021.
He got to see
Yeah.
COVID. That's crazy.
Right,
Yep.
maybe
Fiend.
that's what got him, because it says
Probably.
natural causes.
Yeah.
Is COVID natural? Never mind.
Well, let's not get into
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm
That's a
sorry.
different
That's my
rabbit
problem.
hole.
It is.
What
I'm
is-
sorry.
what is- Keelan just had a mic moment right there.
I
What the
did.
hell?
Mic
Who has
drop
weapons?
moment.
Yeah.
Who has weapons of mass destruction?
All right, let's rate this thing, guys. I am feeling a solid 7 for this one, if I'm being honest. I enjoyed it. I think that it's a good directorial debut. I enjoyed some of the shots. In particular, there was one shot where they were cutting to break at the show, and you see the action from within the camera lens, and I thought that was a really good shot. There's also a lot of really nice framing shots with silhouette and vignettes. Those were nice.
Okay.
So I think I saw, a good show of effort from Anna Kendrick. The story is decent, in my opinion. It's interesting. It's a very slow burn. It's very mundane. It's not like on the edge of your seat type thriller where there's action happening. Again, it's much more down to earth, almost banal. And that makes it unsettling in a way that you don't necessarily expect, but is also quite enjoyable. So yeah, solid 7 from me. I think this was decent.
Nice. I could follow that up really quick. I too will give it a 7. I had it down for 6.5, but yeah, the shots and stuff were really good. Again, great directorial debut. I can no question give this a 7 and not feel any way about it. Yeah, 7.
That's funny because we rarely ever agree on any movies that we
That's
watch.
true.
And for us to give it 3 sevens in a row, man, that's a jackpot right there.
Hey,
Hey,
7,
that's
7 under
true.
311.
This might be the best movie we reviewed all year.
For sure.
Well, no, you guys said that the Late Night with the Devil was the best movie we reviewed all year.
I mean, on average, though, because
That's
Oh, okay, on aaveraage, yeah.
we're all giving it a 7. This movie a 7, and this movie reminds us of that movie. So hint, hint.
Stick
Because
to the
I was
formula,
thinking
guys.
7. Well, I was thinking a 7 long before we got to the ratings, and we all agree it's about a 7. So we're all in
Yeah.
agreement. And if we were playing a slot machine, that would be a jackpot.
Yeah.
Blink, blink,
Agreed.
blink, 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 blink,
Yeah.
blink,
Yeah, no, I
blink,
think
blink,
that I was once I turned it off, I was like, yeah, this is about a 7 for me. So
Yeah, That's
that
exactly where I was too in my head.
Yeah, not bad, above average, and like a good effort. I don't know
Keep up
what
the
you
good
could have
work.
done to make it better, but like I just don't know if you could spice this up enough to make it more interesting. Unless I don't even think you can do anything more. I think that they did exactly what they could do, and that's just it just came out as a 7. So
You know what makes it refreshing though To be, in my opinion,
What's that?
it wasn't overly sexualized, and
Right.
it wasn't overly graphically violent either.
True.
And I think that's something that's lost in today
Yes.
movie telling and storytelling. It doesn't have to be overly sexual. It doesn't have to be overly violent to still be really good.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I give
It's all about story.
Anna Kendrick kudos for this.
Same. I think it's a decent film, and I think that she did a pretty good job putting it together and directing it. So, maybe don't act in the next one, Anna. If you want to be a director now, you don't need to be Adam Sandler.
Oh,
Hey, that's where the money's at, though.
shots
Hey,
fired.
look, no, Adam Sandler's great, but I mean, like if you want to be a director, maybe get somebody else new in. Maybe find
Give somebody a
young, new
shot.
actress. Yeah, give somebody a shot and do another movie. I'll be interested in it.
Well, the next question would be: does it have to be based on a true story, or can she come up with an original story to tell?
That's up
You
to
know,
her.
That is up to her. I wouldn't mind another true type story, but again, if it's just gonna be all this true crime stuff, that might get old pretty quickly.
Yeah, that'll end up on Lifetime.
Yeah, for sure.
This
All right, well,
because this is technically a Lifetime movie, but
yeah, with a little bit more style. That's all.
right.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thank you. We really appreciate it. What did you guys think? Did you watch it? Let us know in the comments what you would rate it. We gave it a 7 across the board, which is not bad, and we very rarely agree all on the same score. So that's impressive. Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave us a comment. It would really help us out. We want to build out our audience, and we can't do it without your help. So thank you so much for coming to visit. We'll be back at the end of the week. I think we'll be doing our weekly wrap up, which is called Channel Surfing, and we'll be talking about the top internet trending items. So we'll be back on Sunday for that. But until then, for Screen Time Continuum, I am Nick.
I'm Keelan.
And I'm contestant number 2.
The hero.
I mean, Mike. Good episode, fellas.